O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 16 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Jesse Waters in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the personal story segment tonight, is President Obama playing the victim card as he gets ready to leave office? Here's what he said in a recent interview with NPR.
I had to live through controversies like the notion that I was trying to kill Christmas, right? Well, where'd that come from? Well, well, he said Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. So that, that must be evidence of him either not being a Christian or not caring about Christmas. It sounds funny now, but you'll have entire debates in conservative circles around that.
Joining me now with a reaction, Democratic pollster Jessica Tarlov and Lisa Booth, a Fox News contributor who also writes for the Washington Times. Live through controversies. Woe is me. As a matter of fact, the war on Christmas is probably the only war President Obama has ever won. Jessica.
How long have you been waiting to say that one, Jesse?
Is this a real story? I mean, I don't remember anybody saying that he was initiating a war on Christmas. Do you?
Yes, I remember many people saying that, and I see all the time in my Twitter feed when I say Happy Holidays, just because I want to be inclusive. And I have no Christmas problem. I love my red cup. I like it all.
Can you name one person who's said that Obama's waging a war on Christmas?
I've heard many people on these airwaves talking about it. I've been on panels talking. Is this really happening?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said it. I don't remember anybody saying that Obama's waging a war on Christmas.
On Cashin' In, for sure. It's been something that we've talked about, how there was a guy in Texas, I remember, who owns a diner, who said that he was put up unapologetically a Merry Christmas sign because he was sick of people defending other religions over Christianity and
I do recall, people saying this or that about the Christian stuff, but this guy is so sensitive. He is the most thin-skinned person I've ever seen, besides me, of course. Why is this guy doing all these exit interviews and whining, do you think?
I honestly just think, and he's also blamed Fox News, he's blamed Rush Limbaugh for vilifying his policies, and that's the reason why some of them haven't been popular. I mean, I just think the president is having an incredibly difficult time, along with the bulk of the Democratic Party, with the reeling loss of the election. I mean, I think that Hillary Clinton and President Obama completely thought that she was ultimately going to win. They're very surprised.
Well, they were not alone in thinking that.
But I also think that they realized that the election was also rejection of President Obama's policies. And look, he's blaming, all these different things for the rejection of his policies. But look no further than the fact that insurance premiums have increased by 30% in states like Pennsylvania and Arizona. Some policies have increased 116%.
Right.
He's tried to decimate entire industries and workers like the coal industry. So these are the things that drove the election. It was jobs, the economy, it was the rejection of President Obama's policies.
I understand that. And, he has a very high approval rating, I think, because he's a personable guy that people do actually like. And I know people get a bump as they're on their way out. We do know that overall healthcare costs are not rising as high as they did in the 10 years before Obamacare. But I just want to say, as a bit of sympathy for this moment, this man is being succeeded by a birther who said that he founded ISIS.
Wait a second. You want us to feel sorry for President Obama?
I just
the
want
most
you to
powerful man in the world, who's been there for 2 terms, who did everything he wanted. We're supposed to feel sorry for him. He wanted the job.
Yeah,
he asked
wanted
for
the
it
job.
twice.
He did. And I think he did a good job, and I think history is going to be kinder to him than in these conversations right now.
I'm not so sure about that, because I think the president's legacy, I think the only place you're going to see that is his library. Because Obamacare is going to be gone, the Iran deal is going to get ripped up. There's not a lot left after 8 years once Trump gets into office.
And here's the thing, too. There's a notion that has been proven wrong this election cycle. There's this entire notion, because Republicans won back the majorities in the House and the Senate in 2010 and 2014, that Republicans couldn't win a national election. But what we found out from this election is that the Democratic Party has actually been propped up by the personal likability of President Obama, but his policies and the party as a whole have been rejected by massive margins. You look at just the losses at the state legislature. Yes, Democrats hold fewer state legislatures than ever before.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But when you look at the numbers on the actual policies.
Republicans also have the majority of governorships across the country, the House and the Senate, and now the White House. So you guys have seen, the Democratic Party has seen historic losses under President Obama.
I don't remember Bush or Clinton complaining this much when they left during these exit interviews. I think these exit interviews are designed to kind of cement the legacy, see kind of looking back what I did and kind of coast into the sunset. What I see from this president, President Obama, he seems angry. Seems a little upset.
Really sad.
Seems emotional.
Yeah.
A little hurt.
Like he needs a hug.
Is that the kind of way you expect him to go out?
Followed by the same kind of candidate. I mean, Donald Trump ran one of the nastiest candidates.
Well, he's responsible for being followed by a candidate like Donald Trump. I mean, President Obama paved the way for a guy like Trump. He's got a little responsibility here.
Listen, he's taken it, and in that interview, he also talked about how important it is for Democratic candidates to get out there and to go into the diners and the drive-bys and to talk to real Americans. He did support Hillary Clinton in it, but we've heard Joe Biden criticize her recently, saying that she didn't have a message and that she didn't get out there and talk to white working-class voters. Democrats, we have a lot of work to do.
But the Democratic Party refuses to face that reality.
Really? Because I'm sitting right here facing it.
Yes, but you aren't Democratic leaders. What do they do? They reelected Nancy Pelosi, who's responsible for historic losses.
Tim Ryan was not the right choice
in the House. The Democratic Party seeks to elect someone like Keith Ellison, who has made blatantly racist comments that are going to fly in the face of what a lot of voters.
Let's get back to Christmas before we wrap this up, though, ladies. Here's what I want to say. I have noticed, and just going around, because I go to a lot of diners, and I'm in and out of the mall all the time, people are now saying Merry Christmas. I believe it has something to do with Donald Trump. We used to say Happy Holidays a lot under President Obama. He's still complaining about it. It's nothing personal. People are saying Merry Christmas again. You can see it on the streets. Have you guys not picked up on that?
I have. I mean, I've always said it all. I don't know, why is that so exciting? We also have Jews.
We're so excited about it. We get to say Merry Christmas again.
But I don't know. You can pick the
or
stock
Happy
market,
Kwanzaa. You can say Happy Kwanzaa too.
But you were excited about Christmas, and I'd like to unpack that further. There are people of all religions in this country, and Happy Holidays brings them all in.
Okay, well, we can say that too, but we're going to say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Again.
Merry Christmas, Jesse and Lisa.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Up next, one of the biggest stars of his time sits down for a fascinating interview with Bill O'Reilly. You don't want to miss this one. Right back with it.
Breaking tonight, an outpouring of outrage from some, celebration from others, after President Obama directs his UN ambassador to allow passage of an unprecedented United Nations resolution condemning settlement construction in Israel. In moments, we will speak to Governor Mike Huckabee, a frequent visitor to Israel, who is calling this a betrayal of Israel. But first, correspondent David Lee Miller has the latest from the United Nations in New York City. David Lee?
Sandra, some UN observers say the vote today underscores a radical shift in U.S. policy. For the first time now in nearly 4 decades, the United States has failed to exercise its veto power in stopping a resolution addressing Israeli settlements. Before the vote, the U.S. would not disclose what it was going to do, but many Israelis did fear that there was going to be what they called some type of Obama December surprise. The relationship between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister has been very strained over the last several months and longer, and many feared this vote would be the consequence. A short time ago, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations cast her vote abstaining when it came to this resolution. She said it does not diminish U.S. support for Israel. Here's more of what Samantha Power had to say about the reasoning behind the U.S. position.
Some may cast the U.S. vote as a sign that we have finally given up on a two-state solution. Nothing could be further from the truth.
And a short time ago, we heard a tweet from the president-elect, Donald Trump. He said, and I quote, "As to the UN, things will be different after January 20th. Others have also been speaking out very publicly following the U.S. failure to use its veto on both sides of the aisle. New York Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, John McCain, as well as South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham, all very critical of the U.S. position. Back to you.
All right, David Lee Miller, thank you. Here now, Governor Mike Huckabee, who has been deeply involved for years with issues involving Israel, frequently visiting Israel and meeting with Israeli government officials at the highest levels. Governor Huckabee, your response to this breaking news today?
Sandra, I am so outraged I can't even hardly contain myself. What Obama did today was basically extend a real nice final farewell and wave to Israel and to Prime Minister Netanyahu, he just bothered to use one finger in the middle of his hand to do it. This is the most amazing position he could have taken. If Donald Trump gets to, the first thing he does, I hope, is send some jackhammers over to Turtle Bay neighborhood in Manhattan and jackhammer the whole United Nations off into the East River and float it to wherever it needs to go. But this is an insult, not just to Israel, but this is an insult to every person who loves freedom. And when people use the term settlements, they may think of the Israelis building, a bunch of tents or mobile homes. These settlements are communities and neighborhoods with schools and curbs and gutters and synagogues and shops and permanent structures where people live and raise their families. And Judea and Samaria belong to Israel. Obama is even saying that the Western Wall ought to be part of territory that's given back. This is insane. This is so beyond anything we've seen in 40 years. It's just stunning.
Well, let me tell you the first thing that the president-elect did do, Donald Trump tweeting out after the vote, as to the UN, things will be different after January 20th. What do you expect the president-elect to do? What will his response be, or should it be, Governor Huckabee?
I think he ought to say that we're not going to continue to spend money funding the UN if they're going to be doing stupid and, frankly, idiotic things that are hurtful to any hope of peace. There's no peace ever going to happen from going along with the state-sponsored terrorist of Iran. Here's what we've done, Sandra. For the past few years under this administration, we have been kissing the backside of the Iranians, the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world, and we have been kicking the backside of the only real, true, loyal friend we have in the entire Middle East, the Israelis. Now, somebody explain why that makes any sense, even in a world of insanity like we sometimes see in the diplomatic world. This doesn't make sense. It's a clear indication that President Obama, no matter what he says, clearly is not cordial or even supportive of the free and democratic process of peace that lives in Israel right now.
Let me share with you
the
words of one Israeli official prior to the vote happening, slamming President Obama as well as Secretary of State John Kerry for being behind what he calls a shameful move against Israel at the UN. He called this an abandonment of Israel, which breaks decades of U.S. policy. Obviously, this makes an already icy relationship with the U.S. and Israel even icier.
Well, it's interesting that even leading Democrats like Chuck Schumer and others, I think Sherrod Brown from Ohio, have also said this is not a good policy. This is not a good position. This is not about partisanship. This isn't Democrat versus Republican. This is about common sense versus insanity. And for President Obama to push a policy that embraces the Iranians and then goes and brushes back our one true friend, and to somehow pretend that Israel doesn't have a right to protect themselves, to live in a secure environment, a place for their people to live. And Judea and Samaria are not illegal territories. They are the God-given boundaries that Israel has rightfully taken possession of.
It'll be interesting to see what Chuck Schumer's response is now of an administration that he's been so supportive of, knowing that right before the vote, he said he had spoken to the administration numerous times, Governor, as recently as this morning, the morning of the vote, and in the strongest term possible urged them to veto this resolution. So this will continue. Governor Huckabee, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sandra.